Necrons, once known as the Undying, are not just an ancient threat from a forgotten era. They are the galaxy's inevitable future. The ancient machines, whose cold gaze pierces across the void, are not merely returning, they are reclaiming. The galaxy trembles, for it is not the pulse of humanity that echoes through the stars anymore, but the silent thrum of the Necron tomb. Worlds awakening. What would happen if the Necrons ruled supreme? Would the stars burn with the heat of their revival, or would they merely flicker out, consumed by the silence of oblivion? Before we embark on this journey into the heart of darkness, remember to like, share, and subscribe. We'll uncover the mysteries that lie within the Necron dynasty and what it truly means for the future of the galaxy. The Necrons, a name whispered through the corridors of time, buried beneath the sands of forgotten worlds. For millennia, they slumbered in their tombs, cold and silent. The galaxy above them continued its restless dance, unaware of the ancient horrors stirring beneath the surface. Now, the deep slumber is disturbed. The hum of machinery, forgotten and abandoned, stirs once again in the dark. The tomb worlds, once lost to history, are beginning to awaken. In the blackness of deep space, in the silent graves of once proud Necron dynasties, a shift occurs. No fanfare heralds their return, no cries of war or battle hymns to announce their presence. The Necrons do not shout to be heard. They do not need to. Their power is the kind that does not need to announce itself. It simply is. As their vast tombs light up once more, the cold, unfeeling figures of the Necron warriors rise, constructed of living metal, ageless and unyielding. The necrodermis of these warriors, long dormant, now pulses with life. Their once dominant empire, lost to the ravages of time, stirs with the eerie silence of the dead. But what does it mean for the galaxy? The universe is not the same as it once was. When the Necrons fell, the Imperium was but a fledgling empire, the Orcs yet untamed, and the Eldar still had their might. Now, the Necrons wake in a galaxy dominated by empires of flesh, beings who fight not just for survival, but for a future, an identity. The galaxy is chaotic, fragmented, and under siege from countless factions. But to the Necrons, all of this is irrelevant. They have no need for such notions as hope or freedom. For them, the galaxy is a machine, one that must be reset and rebuilt into a perfect order. The first stirrings of their awakening are imperceptible at first. A signal intercepted, a strange interference in the astral communications that scatter across the galaxy. The faintest hints that something ancient is stirring. But those who notice are too few, their warnings too weak. In the tombs of the Necron lords, vast chambers built for eternity, the sounds of mechanical limbs moving echo through the corridors. The cryptech engineers, masters of dark science, begin their work, their delicate fingers brushing against the keys of long-forgotten technologies, reactivating their ancient war machines. The resurrection protocols, long dormant, begin to take root once again. From the surface of these tomb worlds, ancient cities, still untouched by time's cruel passage, begin to stir. The silence is deafening. It is not the sound of life returning, but the cold and steady march of a machine that never died. The Necrons are awakening, and with them, their insidious plan to reclaim what was once theirs begins. The stars, once so full of life and fire, will soon belong to them once more. As the first Necron armies rise from their tombs, they are not greeted with chaos or panic. No, The galaxy does not know the true weight of the threat they face. You see, Necron's armies move with unrelenting precision, their immortality and flawless design making them a force no one can predict. The once proud realms of the galaxy are unaware of the ancient power rising within them. The Necrons do not strike in full force, not yet. They are patient. They wait. In the deepest recesses of their tombs, in the darkest corners of their minds, they are planning. They are perfecting their return. But for the galaxy, the true horror is not the sight of these warriors marching across the stars. It is the silence that follows them, the lack of emotion, the lack of care. There is no hatred in the Necron heart, no fear, just a singular cold desire to return the galaxy to order. Their rule will not be born in the flames of war, but in the quiet suffocation of their control. They do not seek to conquer in the traditional sense. No, they will reshape. As the Necrons rise, their enemies will find that their greatest weapon is not their advanced technology or their ancient gods, but their utter disregard for the galaxy as a living, breathing entity. The Necrons see the universe not as a place of chaos, but as a machine that needs to be fixed. And once they are fully awake, there will be no stopping them. The galaxy does not understand the true scope of the Necrons' empire, nor the cold, unwavering order they intend to restore. To those who would oppose them, the Necrons are often seen as a mindless, relentless force, a swarm of metal warriors driven by some ancient, forgotten need. But this perception could not be farther from the truth. The Necron Empire is not built on instinct or emotion. It is a machine forged by the will of a species that has long since transcended such primitive concepts. Their conquest is one of precision and strategy, not violence for violence's sake. The Necrons do not rush to dominate. Their methods are deliberate, calculated, and most importantly, invisible to those who are not watching closely. Where others would seek to break their enemies in battle, the Necrons seek to break their enemies in time. Patience is their greatest weapon. They are not merely returning to conquer a galaxy, they are returning to restore it to its rightful order. The age of flesh and fire is the mistake. The true reign of the galaxy, according to the Necrons, was one of silence, of harmony, of an unyielding, perfect order, governed by logic and purpose. To understand their rule, one must first understand the way the Necrons see the galaxy. Where the Imperium sees a fractured cosmos, riddled with chaos, war, and discord, the Necrons see a broken machine, one that can and will be fixed. The Imperium and its countless factions are merely obstacles in the way of this perfection. They are an unneeded anomaly, like a rusted cog in a complex mechanism. As long as the gears turn, it matters little if they grind or if they are forced into place. The Necron Empire was once a vast, nearly unstoppable force. Entire dynasties ruled over countless star systems, their might unmatched in the galaxy. But that was before the betrayal, before the silent collapse of their ancient reign. Now, they awaken from their long slumber, not with the fury of those who seek vengeance, but with the cool precision of those who know that time is on their side. The galaxy's inhabitants, though many and varied, are merely fleeting moments in the grand design of the Necrons. The Necron Empire does not rely on hordes of soldiers or overwhelming military might. Instead, they deploy their forces with methodical brilliance. A Necron army is not a mass of warriors charging into battle. It is a well-oiled machine, each piece moving in perfect coordination with the others. Their tactics are both simple and complex in equal measure. They do not fight battles for the sake of glory or for the thrill of combat. Every battle, every engagement is a calculated step towards their ultimate goal, restoring the galaxy to its rightful order. There are no random acts of aggression in the Necron strategy, only the relentless pursuit of perfection. As they rise, the Necrons will infiltrate. Slowly, they will spread through the galaxy like a quiet illness, working through covert actions, manipulating systems from the shadows. They will not storm planets in a full-on assault. Instead, they will destabilize, weaken, and eventually replace. Their strategy is not to overpower their enemies outright, but to replace them with something more efficient, more ordered, and more permanent. The greatest strength of the Necron Empire is its longevity. Their warriors, once awoken, will never tire. Their technologies are beyond comprehension, their minds ageless, their resolve unbreakable. The galaxy's short-lived empires, from the Imperium to the Tau to the Orcs, all stand in the shadow of the Necrons' eternal ambition. The Necrons do not need to crush their enemies in a single battle. They will grind them down over time. Their empire does not need to be expanded at a rapid pace. They will expand it as slowly and deliberately as the turning of the stars themselves. The Necron dynasties, each ruled by an overlord or pharaoh, are not just military leaders. They are also political masterminds, cultural architects, and visionaries. Each dynasty has its own purpose, its own goal, its own philosophy on how the galaxy should be ruled. Some may seek to restore the Necrons to their former glory, while others may wish to reshape the universe in their own image. But all are united by one central truth. The galaxy is a machine, and the Necrons are its rightful engineers. To rule the galaxy, the Necrons would bring with them not just military might, but an entirely new system of governance. Their rule would not be based on feudal lines or political maneuvering. There would be no more rebellions or uprisings to challenge their might. There would be no more resistance. The Necron Empire would be a perfect hierarchy, a system that works not because it is feared, but because it is inevitable. The Necrons' vision of the galaxy is one of order, but it is a cold order, one that sees no room for passion, for freedom, for individuality. The galaxy would become a factory, its inhabitants mere components, working in perfect synchronization. In their eyes, this is the ultimate victory. The galaxy, free from the chaos of time, of flesh, and of war. There is no roar in the Necron march, no battle cries that echo through the stars. Their power is not to be measured in the shattering of worlds or the clashing of armies. It is measured in something far more terrifying, in silence. The Necron Empire does not conquer through fiery explosions or the crash of war drums. No, they conquer with a quiet, suffocating control that extends to every corner of the galaxy. Their power does not demand attention, and that is perhaps the most dangerous thing about it. The galaxy, ever full of noise and chaos, is not prepared for such a methodical, implacable silence. The Necrons do not need to strike fear into their enemies. Their very presence is enough to subjugate. They do not need to remind the galaxy of their power, because that power is absolute and undeniable. It is the cold, efficient precision of a machine that has no need for debate or discourse. When a Necron overlord steps onto the battlefield, there is no flourish, no grand speeches. There is only the inevitable unfolding of their plan. Every movement, every strike is part of a greater whole, something larger than the battle at hand, something designed to reshape the galaxy into their image. It is this silence, this absolute control, that makes the Necron Empire so terrifying. Where other factions like the Imperium or the Orcs fight for glory or survival, the Necrons fight only to restore what they believe is the true order of the universe. To them, there is no need for negotiation, no need for diplomacy. The galaxy is a machine that must be fixed, and they are the ones chosen to make it whole again. There is no room for argument. There is no room for dissent. The galaxy's inhabitants, for all their bravery and resilience, are no match for this quiet power. The Imperium of Man, so proud of its history and its vast empire, will find itself reduced to a shadow of its former glory. The Necrons will not destroy the Imperium, not in the way other races might expect. They will dismantle it, piece by piece, in the most efficient and unobtrusive way imaginable. The Imperium will not collapse under the weight of a brutal invasion. It will collapse under the weight of inaction. This is the true horror of the Necron rise. Not the swarming hordes of warriors or the unearthly power of their star-shattering weapons, but the unyielding, mechanical march of inevitability. In a galaxy full of chaos, the Necrons will offer something far more frightening, an eternal order. And within that order, there will be no place for rebellion, no room for revolution. It will be an empire built on the cold foundation of logic, a world where emotion has no sway, and where resistance is nothing more than a brief flicker in the vast darkness of space. As the Necron forces grow, so too will their silence. They will not be like the Orcs, screaming and shouting as they ravage the galaxy, nor will they be like the Eldar, slipping through the shadows and playing their ancient games. The Necrons will operate in the background, their presence barely felt until it is too late. They will destabilize worlds without ever drawing a weapon. They will subvert governments without ever speaking a word. The greatest weapon in their arsenal is not their armies, their weapons, or their machines, but their silence. There will be no great battle for the galaxy, no defining conflict between the forces of good and evil. The Necrons will not allow it. Instead, they will slowly replace every system, every institution, with their perfect, unyielding design. The Imperium may fight, may resist, but it will be no match for the mechanical certainty of the Necron way. The Necrons are not interested in wiping out the galaxy's inhabitants. Not at first. They are interested in restoring it, in making it run the way it was always meant to. For those who would resist, for those who would cry out against the silence, the Necrons offer no reprieve. Their enemies will find themselves drowned in an ocean of stillness. It is a subtle, creeping domination that cannot be fought with swords or guns. It can only be fought with an unwillingness to conform, a refusal to be part of the machine. But even then, how can one resist the tide of inevitability when it has already begun? The galaxy, once filled with the heat of conflict and the pulse of life, will begin to cool. The Necrons do not need to destroy worlds to conquer them. They will simply take away everything that makes those worlds alive. They will replace the warmth of the sun with the cold light of their tombs. They will replace the fires of war with the steel and silence of their dominion. And as the Necron reign spreads, the galaxy will feel its absence. The noise, the chaos, the endless clash of civilizations, all of it will slowly fade, leaving behind nothing but a cold, perfect order. The Necrons will rule, not through fire and destruction, but through the suffocating grip of their own quiet, unshakable power. The Necrons look upon the fleshy, fragile form of the galaxy's inhabitants with disdain. To them, flesh is a burden, a frailty that must be discarded in the pursuit of true perfection. Where the imperium of man and other civilizations see their flesh as a part of their identity, the Necrons see it as a flawed, temporary vessel. The ancient Necron kings and lords, once living beings themselves, made the ultimate sacrifice to transcend their mortal forms, to embrace the cold, unfeeling perfection of the machine. They chose eternity through mechanization, casting aside their humanity for the unyielding power of metal and machine. This rejection of flesh is not simply a philosophical choice, it is a practical one. Flesh, no matter how strong, is bound by time. It decays, it weakens, it succumbs to age and disease. But the Necrons? They are beyond time. Their bodies, made of necrodermis, living metal, are ageless and indestructible. In their eyes, the transformation of the galaxy's inhabitants into machines would be the ultimate triumph. The true future of the galaxy, in their cold logic, would be one without weakness, without decay. An empire of perfect, unfeeling machines, with no need for flesh, no need for emotion, and no need for the burden of mortality. As the Necrons march forward, they bring with them a promise, an end to the ravages of time. Their promise is not one of freedom or hope, but of absolute, unyielding eternity. Under their rule, the galaxy would be forever suspended in a state of perfect order. There would be no hunger, no pain, no sickness. There would be no birth or death, only the endless, unchanging perfection of the machine. No more fear of the inevitable decay of flesh, no more strife over resources, over the survival of a fleeting species. Under the Necron Empire, everything would have its place, and everything would serve the singular, unchanging purpose of the machine. To the Necrons, the ultimate goal is not to wipe out all life. Rather, it is to transform life into something more enduring. The Necron lords do not see their transformation into immortal beings of metal as a loss, but as an ascension. They are not gods, as some believe, but something far colder, far more efficient. They have transcended the petty concerns of flesh. They have risen above the need for passions, for desires. What they seek is a galaxy where every being is transformed into an enduring cog in the machine, where the chaos of flesh and emotion is replaced with perfect order. The Necrons do not just desire to rule the galaxy, they desire to reshape it into their image. They would bring every race, every species into their fold, not through conquest alone, but through assimilation. There would be no resistance left, no rebel forces to fight. The galaxy would be remade piece by piece until there was only the Necron way, the cold perfection of metal and machine, where the agony of the flesh is a distant, forgotten memory. This transformation is not immediate. The Necrons understand the nature of time. They know that their empire cannot be built in a single day, nor can it be ruled with the short-lived passion of mortal beings. Their empire will be slow, deliberate, and unyielding. They will begin by infiltrating, by replacing, by transforming. Entire populations will be converted, body and soul, into the perfect forms of the Necrons. Those who resist will be crushed under the weight of inevitability. For the Necrons, this is not a victory born of violence. It is the fulfillment of their design. The Necron lords will use their vast, unfathomable technology to bring about this transformation. They will capture and reforge entire civilizations, using the terrible power of the Pharaoh's command and the vast resources of their tomb worlds. Entire planets will be converted, transformed into massive factories where flesh is discarded and only machines remain. There will be no crying out for mercy, no desperate pleas for freedom. There will be only the cold, steady hum of the great Necron machines as they work tirelessly to complete their task. For those who still cling to their flesh, to their fragile mortality, the Necrons offer no reprieve. In the end, they will all be converted, one by one, until no trace of organic life remains. And then, and only then, will the galaxy be truly perfect. This is the future that the Necrons envision, a galaxy free from the suffering and decay of flesh, a galaxy where machines reign supreme and where eternity is not a promise, but a certainty. The Necrons are not a race driven by vengeance, nor by the desire for wealth or power. They are driven by the cold, unyielding logic that their empire is the only way the galaxy can ever truly achieve peace. And when they rule, peace will reign, but it will be a peace without passion, without life. It will be the peace of the grave. The Necrons are not merely a race of warriors. They are the instruments of an ancient, almost incomprehensible force. At the heart of their empire lies a truth both unsettling and profound. The Necrons are servants to gods, not of flesh and blood, but of an unfathomable cosmic nature. The Citan, the star gods, are not mere deities worshipped by the Necrons. They are the true rulers of the galaxy, and the Necrons are their eternal instruments. The Citan are not benevolent beings, nor are they kind. They are as ancient as the stars themselves, and their hunger for power is as insatiable as the void. The relationship between the Necrons and the Citan is one forged in a time long before the birth of the Imperium or any other power in the galaxy. The Necrons were once a living race, flesh and bone, who sought the power of the Citan to transcend the limitations of their mortal forms. In their pursuit of immortality, they made a terrible pact with these entities, binding themselves to the Citan in exchange for their power. The Necrons became the servants, the Citan their gods. The betrayal that followed, the forced imprisonment of the Citan, was a pivotal moment in the Necron history, a time when they sought to break free from their gods and claim the power for themselves. Yet, despite the fall of the Citan, the remnants of their power linger still. The Citan, now shattered and imprisoned in the bodies of crystalline constructs, remain a whisper in the mind of every Necron. Though they are trapped in their new forms, the Citan are not powerless. Their influence still lingers, like a shadow cast across the minds of their servants. The Necrons, in all their cold, calculating might, are still bound by the lingering presence of their former masters. And though the Necrons believe themselves to be free of the Citan's direct control, the truth is far more complicated. The gods they cast aside may still haunt them, steering the course of their destiny in ways both subtle and profound. As the Necron Empire awakens, the influence of the Citan grows stronger. The gods of the Necrons, once seen as mere relics of a forgotten time, are stirring in their prisons, whispering promises of power and control to those who would listen. Some Necron lords seek to reclaim the favor of the Citan, hoping to harness their power once again. Others resist, unwilling to return to their ancient servitude. But the presence of the Citan is inescapable. The very fabric of the Necron Empire is woven with their dark influence. For the Necron lords, the question becomes one of power and control. Do they embrace the Satan's influence, seeking to wield the godlike powers of their former masters? Or do they continue their quest for absolute autonomy, knowing that such a path may forever sever their ties to the gods they once served? The Necron gods are not the benevolent deities of other races. They are cold, uncaring, and consumed by hunger. The Satan's desires are inscrutable, their motivations as twisted and alien as the universe itself. Yet, they promise power beyond measure. To rule the galaxy, to remake it in their image, would require more than just the unyielding might of the Necrons. It would require the favor of the Citan, the ancient gods of the stars themselves. The presence of the Citan is a paradox. To ignore their influence is to deny the very foundation upon which the Necron Empire was built. Yet, to embrace them fully is to risk becoming their servants once more, bound by the same chains that once enslaved the Necron race. This tension, the battle between independence and servitude, is at the heart of the Necron struggle. The Necron Empire, for all its cold perfection and ordered precision, is still haunted by the echoes of its ancient pact with the gods of the stars. In the end, the question remains: will the Necrons reclaim their place as the true rulers of the galaxy, casting aside their ancient masters? Or will they be forever bound to the will of the Citan? Will they rise above the gods they once worshipped, or will they fall under the weight of their own history, their very existence tied to the dark hunger of the stars? The galaxy is vast, its future uncertain, but one thing is clear: the Necrons will not rule alone. Whether as masters or as servants, the influence of the Citan will shape the fate of the galaxy, and the silent gods of the stars will never truly leave.